Bruchim habayim lekulam. It's commendable that you're all here despite the Pesach preparations. You've all taken time out. I should also mention that there are no women here today, which is also a testimony. They're probably at home scrubbing away, which is fantastic. That some of the husbands have been let out to keep out of harm's way. I know that's why I'm here. Okay. Now, before I start anything, this shiur is L'Refuah Shlema of Shoshana Bat Miriam. I want to tell you, on Sunday, there was a Brit Milah here. Yesterday. Beautiful Brit Milah. My friend Effie Raymond made the Brit here with his wife Debbie, and it was an extremely emotional occasion, apart from the fact that any bris is emotional, but there was an added dimension there. It was a very, very special simcha. I'm going to tell you why it was special by giving you a story about Rav Shach, Zeichet Tzalik Livracha. Somebody once came to Rav Shach. He had been married for a year, and his wife had given birth to a baby girl, their first child. So he came to Rav Shach and he said, "Rabbi, do I need to make a kiddush for my daughter, newborn daughter, or not? So I don't want to make a fuss or whatever, Is it essential?" So Rav Shach turned around to this young man and he said, "Your wife gave birth after a year of you being married, correct?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Imagine if your wife gave birth after 8 years. Would you feel you want to make a kiddush then?" He said, "Of course." He said, "Well, look at it this way. Hashem spared you 7 years of anguish waiting for a child. So what? You think it deserves less of a celebration? Hashem took away some pain from you. Almost immediately your wife must have fallen pregnant. So you have a child. Of course you make a kiddush." My friend Effie, I would say this now, prefacing by the fact that my friend Effie himself said it at the Brit Milah, so I'm not saying anything that he didn't say. My friend Effie had this baby boy. It's a second child, but the second boy was born after 7 years of waiting, for whatever reason. And he really, you could see at that Brit Milah, he was so basimcha. And when he got up to speak about his child's name is Ariel Yosef Hai. When he spoke about his child's name, he was cracking up. He was crying. He just couldn't contain himself. He was crying. He was just so grateful to Hashem to have brought him to that day. And his wife, of course, felt the same. Well, I was thinking to myself, I know this man, and I know that he would have done that if his child was born after a year. But how many of us, when we feel a simcha, do we just take it for granted, or do we just have a tremendous sense of hakarat tov to the Ribono Shel Olam? It's all too easy to take things for granted, and this really is the subject of my shir today. I'm going to talk about Parashat Tzav, but I also want to talk about Pesach, and in the main my theme is hakarat tov, and to give Todah, to recognize Hashem's greatness in everything. I'm going to start off by talking about the second pasuk in the parasha. It says, "Tzav et Aaron v'et banav leimor." Command Aaron and his sons, saying, "Zot Torat ha'olah." This is the law of the Olah offering. The Olah offering was a korban, a sacrifice, which was burnt entirely on the Mizbeach. Now, this word Tzav has aroused a lot of questions over the years from the Mefarashim, because Tzav is a very strong lashon. The word Tzav means to command. When you command somebody, it shows that possibly it's more emphatic. You want to make sure something is done. But you have to understand who we're talking to here. Who is Moshe Rabbeinu talking to? He's talking to his brother Aaron. You have to command something in no uncertain terms to your brother Aaron. You should say, Daber el Aaron. Speak to Aaron. Like the word Daber, like the word Nidbaru is related to the word Daber. The word Nidbaru, says the Gemara, is a Lashon, very soft language. It's not forceful. It's more, So why this tzav, command? So Rashi on the spot says, Ein lo ela lashon ziruz. This word tzav means zaruz, which means to perform the mitzvah with alacrity, with zirizut, like when we do a brit milah. Also relating to the brit milah we had yesterday. But additionally, Rashi continues, and he says that Amar Rabbi Shimon, says Rashi, B'yoter tzarech hachatuv lazarez b'makom sheyesh bo chesaron kis. The word, the emphasis from the word zirizut in this particular pasuk is talking about chesaron kis. What does chesaron kis mean? It means a loss of money. So what Moshe Rabbeinu was told to say was the word tzav, which indicates that this particular mitzvah must be done. You have to command your brother Aaron to perform this mitzvah with alacrity, because it involves a financial loss. There's a big financial consideration at stake, excuse the pun, stake, when we're talking about a korban. Is this any different from any other korban? A korban can be anything. Can be a flour offering, as in flour and water. Can be a bird offering. Can be an animal offering. This particular offering is an animal offering. This was not the only animal offering. Why this particular mitzvah? Is there this inyan of zirizut? Is this inyan of chesaron kis? Why is there such an emphasis on be careful, because there's a loss of money at stake? More than any other sacrifice. So I heard an answer, and I'll preface this answer by telling you that when I was in Israel, when I used to live in Israel, I think this was, we're there for 7 years, but this was in the year 2000 or maybe 99, that we're at the Kotel, and I can't remember what reason, but there was a huge fireworks display. Could have been Yom Yerushalayim or something like that. I can't remember. They made a massive, and it was very impressive. And it was, my wife and myself were there, and we came away afterwards and we said it was very nice, until somebody told us that this fireworks display cost the municipality of Jerusalem the tidy sum, I think it was $1 million. For those of you not in America, for those of you in the UK, that's about £650,000. This firework display lasted approximately 20 minutes. So in 20 minutes, £650,000 of the Jerusalem residents' taxpayers' money literally went up in smoke. And it was very nice while it lasted, but after 20 minutes, it was just a memory. I don't think many people remember those fireworks. I'm sure most people, it's faded into obscurity. But there was $1 million that went up in those 20 minutes. This particular korban, which we're representing as a chesaron kis, as a possible loss of money, what does it represent? A person comes along and he has to bring a korban olah, and he brings it to the kohen. And the kohen does the shechita, and the animal goes on the altar, and the fire comes, and the offering gets burnt up. That's what the Korban Olah is. It's an offering that gets burnt up completely. What does the onlooker, what does the person who gives the sacrifice feel at that time? Potentially. He's just paid a large amount of money for a large animal. He's seen it put on the Mizbeach. And after however long it is, because it burns overnight, there's nothing left. So the person who is given the sacrifice could very well look at the whole episode and think, in the modern vernacular we would say, where is my ROI? Where is my return on investment? If I give money to a synagogue, they're going to put my name on a plaque. If I donate money for a sefer, I'm going to get my name on the cover. The Schottenstein edition, or whatever it is, or the Stone edition. But where, literally, it's just gone. So for that, the Torah is telling us, you might think it's a chesaron kiss. You might think it's gone up in flames. But this is not like lahavdil, those fireworks. It's not something that was very pretty and now it's gone. The investment that you made in this korban has now been directly placed into your bank account in Shamayim. There is no greater ROI than that. I rest my case. And this parasha doesn't only talk about korbanot. There is a portion of this parasha which talks about the laws of tumah and tahara, the laws of ritual purity and ritual impurity. It says the Torah that anything which is tameh, which is ritually impure, that comes into some contact with something which is tahor, ritually pure, that the pure will become impure. So the purities, so the thing which is tahor, its purity will become impaired, it will become affected. Does anything happen to the impurity? No. The impurity is not affected in any way. So of course the obvious question is, when you have something that is pure and impure, why doesn't the pure affect the impure? Why doesn't the purity spread? Like Kiruv Rabbanim, when they do the holy work, they spread out. They spread the Torah, they make many people through their efforts. So what, is it the case that people in Asia Torah or Samayach, all these wonderful Kiruv organizations, they go out to do their campus work and they work in the shuls and whatever with the people who are not yet observant, and all these rabbis come along and they all start going to discos and clubs and gambling? I don't think so. There's relatively few people, relatively very, very minor proportion of people who go out and do this type of work who get affected. Obviously it's not exclusive. You do hear of some terrible casualties, but it certainly doesn't happen in the main. So why is it in the laws of tumah and tahara the purity is always affected negatively when there's a clash between these two things? And unusually enough, I'm going to tell you a joke which I heard from, I can't even remember his name, some American comedian. So there was this man in a bar, and he was sitting there amongst a group of people. He was sitting by himself, but there was a group of people around him. And all these people were sniggering and laughing at this man. Why were they laughing at this man? Because to the other people it was very obvious that this man was wearing a hairpiece. And obviously if you're that type of chevra, that you laugh at these type of things, that if you're going to laugh at somebody wearing an obvious hairpiece, it can be very funny to some people. So these people are all sniggering and laughing, and one of these people decided to brave speaking to this man. And he went up to this person and said, "Excuse me, so I hope you don't mind. Is that your own hair?" The man looked disgusted. He said, "Of course it's my hair." He said, "Okay, I didn't mean to offend you, but I'm so sorry, but I hope you don't mind me saying this. It looks like a hairpiece. It looks like it's not your hair. Please tell me, look, nobody's listening. Is it your hair?" He said, "Of course it's my hair. And here, I've got the receipt to prove it." What's the idea? A person might come along and say, look, there are two opposing things here, Tumah and Tahara. The thing that is Tahara, the thing that is pure, it's not always what it says on the box. It's not always what it says on the tin. Because something that is pure, or at least purports to be pure, can sometimes only have a veneer, an outer appearance of being pure. But on the inside, the story might be different. Something which is impure, really and obviously, is impure from the outset. There's no doubt that it is impure. Things which parade themselves as being tameh, there's really no doubt that it's tameh, if you really look at it. And in terms of ritual impurity and ritual purity, animals that are tameh, you can see they're tameh. A pig is tameh. Shiratzim, like lizards and all these, grasshoppers, etc., they're all tameh. We know they're tameh. But something which is pure may look pure from the outside, but who knows, maybe this pure thing touched something which is impure. So now it looks like it's pure. A person looks like he's a pure person, but who knows, maybe this pure person touched something which is tameh, like a dead body, Rahman al-Islam, or a dead sheretz, a dead creature. And now the person is walking around with a degree of tum'ah. He looks fine, looks perfect. So what I'm trying to say is, something which is pure, there's always a safek. Is it pure? Is it not pure? But something which is tameh is always tameh. Something which we know to be tameh is always tameh. That's why the tum'ah is always assumed to have given its effect to the thing which is pure. I'll give you another example. For those of you in America, you may not be able to relate to this on TorahAnytime.com, but in England, many of us who hear about different smachot and different simchas that are maybe not so how they should be, there is a certain term which has been perpetuated by the caterers. When they talk about their menus, they talk about food which is non-offensive. A non-offensive menu will be a menu which does not contain pork or seafood or anything like that. What does it mean, non-offensive? It means that if you're Jewish, that you can comfortably eat from this menu and not be offended if somebody offers you pork or shellfish. But really, what does it mean? It means that this caterer, obviously this caterer does not have Tudat Echsher. It's not, kosher caterers don't use this term, of course. What does it mean? It means non-kosher caterers can come along and serve you fish and chicken. Of course there's no kashrut there, but because they don't offend you by offering you taref, obvious taref, that it's okay for you to eat there because you're not going to be offended. Now my wife and myself were discussing this subject, and I said to my wife the following. I said, when these caterers, they want Jewish people to buy into their catering and buy into their menu, why do they call it non-offensive? Who is it they are thinking they're not offending? I personally am extremely offended. I'm offended that these caterers can go around and prey on innocent people who, many of them don't know any better. They just want to save money. They don't know the difference. To them, if they don't have pork, they don't have shellfish, okay, look, this is, and of course the menu is half the price, or whatever. And for them it's okay. And they prey on that. So to me, I find that extremely offensive, because there's no difference. You're eating a piece of fish which is fried in animal oil. There's no shomer there to see if they're putting in, how they're washing the vegetables. Could it be covered with bugs? And every bug you're eating contains 5 different lotases in the Torah. It's terrible. It's much worse if you think about it than eating pig. So these people are falling prey to these caterers. Now of course a caterer, if he's non-Jewish, he can do what he wants. He's not bound. But it's up to us to make people aware of this type of thing. Because here is a case where something looks pure, it's not offensive, there's no pork on this menu. How can you possibly be offended? We're not giving you something, which it says in your holy writings that you're not allowed to eat. We would never do that. But it says in your holy writings you can eat chicken, so we'll give you chicken. It's not had any ritual slaughter done to it. I'm not going to mention that to you. I just want to sell you my menu. So non-offensive is very offensive. On the other hand, if there's a caterer who has everything, pork, shellfish, everything, there it's obvious. The impurity is totally transparent. It's not parading as some type of pseudo permissible menu. It's obvious from the outset, this is not permissible. 99% of Jews know they're not allowed to eat pork or ham. This is what the Torah is telling us here. Tumah is clearly defined, but kosher, it's under safek, it's a doubt. So maybe that thing that's kosher might have touched something which is tameh, and we don't know. So that's why when tumah means tahor, we suspect that tahor has been affected adversely. Very important point to bear in mind. And this week's parsha also talks about the korban, the bikurim, which are brought to the Beit HaMikdash. The bikurim, the first fruits. We all know about the bikurim, that these are the first fruits of the crop, which are taken to the Beit HaMikdash, given to the Kohen, and it's big pomp, big ceremony. It's a wonderful occasion. Rich people, poor people alike, they all bring their fruits. And there's a wonderful idea which is said over many, many times, which is brought in the Gemara, that rich people come and bring their expensive baskets, gold and silver baskets full of beautiful fruit, and they give it to the Kohen, and the Kohen takes the basket and pours out the fruit. And of course they give the basket back to the person, the rich person goes away. Meanwhile, a poor person, he brings his basket, maybe this is like wooden basket or cheres, like some sort of earthenware, like a cheaper basket with his fruits. The Kohen takes the basket in its entirety, takes the fruits, and takes the basket as well. Says the Gemara, this is an example of the poor becoming more poor, the poor getting poorer. What is this? The Kohen comes and takes the basket as well? What is this? So comes out the beautiful answer, that there's a reason why the Kohen takes the basket. Because hidden in that basket are the fruits which the poor man is bringing. These fruits might be a little bit scrawny. They might not have the quality of the fruits of the rich person. The rich person has beautiful orchards, beautiful grapevines, and he's bringing lovely, fantastic schorah, beautiful produce. And the poor man is embarrassed. Maybe he's got the grapes are not ripe yet, or they're not such good. The quality is not so good. So the Kohen, to be sensitive to the poor man, he takes the basket so that they don't have to open it and embarrass the poor man. What a beautiful idea. But I had a couple of questions. One question was my own question, and one question when I discussed it with my 13-year-old daughter, she also had another question. And I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to these two questions. I'm throwing it out to anyone who can give me an answer. Anyone on TorahAnytime.com is watching this. If you have an answer for me, please email me. My email address is rabbikalati@gmail.com. I'd be very interested to know if you have an answer to one or both of these questions. First question from my daughter. What's the idea behind the Kohen keeping the poor man's basket? It would seem obvious that that basket is not the same as the rich man's basket. We already said the rich man's basket is made of gold or silver. The poor man's basket is a wicker basket or a wooden basket. So obviously when somebody brings along a basket like that, it's obvious he's a poor person. And more so, to make it even a more pointed question, when it's seen, when it's obvious that the Kohen is keeping the basket and the fruits together, it's obvious that this is a poor person, even if you can't tell the difference. Even if the basket is the same as the rich person's basket, the fact that Kohen is taking the basket shows, oh, you know what? That's a poor person. Otherwise, why would the Kohen keep it? So already you're making an obvious differentiation between poor people and rich people. So you're putting him on the spot. What are you benefiting by keeping the basket? Maybe you're preserving a little bit of his dignity, but you're showing that he's a poor person. I have to keep his basket because I don't want to embarrass him. I'm embarrassing him anyway. Because when you keep it, automatically you're showing he's a poor person. Now, it's just occurred to me now, possibly you could be preserving an element of his dignity by keeping the thing. At least you're not embarrassing him by showing everybody his fruits anyway. Okay, you could say that. It just occurred to me. If you've got a better answer than that, please send me an email. And here's my question now. It's all very nice that we're demonstrating this and it is a wonderful act to preserve the dignity of this poor man. And we're all watching this fantastic thing. We hear this wonderful example, and we're thinking, wow, that's amazing. The poor man he really feels wholesome now. That's okay for us. Put yourself in the poor man's shoes. He's coming along, he's thinking, where's my basket? Forget the dignity. I'm one basket less now. I paid a lot of money for that basket. It took me ages to make my wicker basket. And I need the basket. You're keeping it. Now I'm going home. Really, you know what? My dignity can be preserved for another occasion. Please give me back my basket. What's going to happen to that poor person? He's going to go home. He's going to be poorer. The Gemara is bringing a point. Answers by email. I'm waiting to hear from you. Now, I want to mention a little bit about Pesach. I'm going to talk about the matzah. Matzah is called lechem oni, the poor man's bread. There are two facets to the matzah. Most people identify matzah with the fact that the Jews left Egypt. They didn't have time to let the dough rise. They put it on their back and they were running off. So that's why we have flat cakes. That's why Rakuzans make so much money, because the Jews left Egypt in a hurry. Fine, that's very nice. Poor man's bread. But additionally, we are told that all the time that the Jews were in Egypt, they were eating matzah. That's what the Egyptians used to give them. So the question begs to be asked. If we were poor in Egypt, we didn't have anything, we were lucky that they gave us the matzah. So as soon as we left Egypt, as soon as we get to have one Seder in the desert, as soon as we come and we live in our generation, we should say to ourselves, forget this matzah. That's reminding us of when we were slaves in Egypt, when we couldn't afford any better, when we were just forced to eat what they gave us. So now we have a Seder night, Let's have bread, let's have a party. Let's bring shawarma, let's bring shishlik, let's bring everything. We have to eat this thin bread. We have to eat this cracker. That was slaves' food. It's like, like the prisoner who he gets to eat porridge. They call it doing porridge. In England we call it doing porridge, staying in prison. So it's like every day the prisoner, porridge, porridge, porridge. No variation. What does he do when he comes out of prison? He wants a 3-course meal, 4-course meal. If somebody says to him, come to my house, I haven't seen you for ages, we're having a porridge party. He can't go out of his mind. He said, what are you talking about porridge? It's going to remind me when I was in prison. Take your porridge and put it in the bin. Yeah, we're eating porridge. We're eating this prison food every year. Bring out the porridge, bring out the porridge. That's what the matzah is. So what is this? Eating slave food? Or are we free? We say this is chayrut. We're leading because we're free. So what is it? The matzah is for poor people, or because we're free? So the answer is, I believe this answer. I think it. Actually, I'm not sure who it's from. I'm not going to say in case I'm wrong. I read it on a Dvar Torah. A person who feels that to be free, he has to eat bread, he has to have steak, he has to have shawarma, he has to have cholent, he has to have all the finest foods, that person is not a free person. That person is the worst type of slave, because he's a slave to his diet. If he feels that to make him happy he's got to have food like that, then that's not called freedom. Freedom is showing us and vicariously showing other people that freedom doesn't depend on the things that we have. A person who is free doesn't have to go and seek material things. You can be a free person eating matzah as a slave, or you can be a free person eating matzah as a free person. If you find you have to have things, that's not called freedom. That's what the matzah is signifying. It's a double-edged sword. It's the food that we were forced to eat, but by eating it now that we're free people, we're showing that we're truly free. We're not slaves to materialism. We're slaves to Hashem. That's what we're showing with this beautiful matzah, which we bring out every year. Talking about matzah, I'm going to tell you an Afikoman story. An Afikoman story that I heard from Rav Fishel Schachter, who always tells amazing stories, and I find him very inspirational. And he told the following story. I cannot imagine he would have made this story up. I cannot imagine anyone would have made this story up. This has to be a true story. There was once a grandfather who, for many years, would tell his children and his grandchildren that he doesn't want any of them to steal the Afikoman. There's an unwritten rule. The children always come, they steal the Afikoman, and then you have to sell it back and all this, and you offer them bicycles and MP3s and all the Zachen. Some people like this. It's an established thing. It's like a little play you do. It keeps the children awake. That's the main thing. Keeps their attention till the end of the Seder. This grandfather said, kids, I'll give you what you want. You want a bicycle? I'll buy you a bicycle. You want a toy? I'll buy you a toy. But nobody under my roof, nobody at my Seder table steals the Afikoman. Of course, the children listen to their father, and the grandchildren listen to their grandfather. For many years, he had Sedarim. Never was the Afikoman stolen. One year, he had a particularly big Seder. Many people came to the Seder. People that he knew, people that he didn't know. And that year, on that Seder night, somebody stole the Afikoman. And the grandfather got up at that point. He said, Mein Kinder, I told you, nobody steals the afikomen at my table. Now, I'm going to close my eyes. When I open my eyes, I want to see the afikomen in front of me. Closed his eyes. After a while, opened his eyes. The afikomen is still gone. So he thought, okay, obviously they don't want to be embarrassed. He says, I'm going to go out the room. And when I come back, whoever took the afikomen, put it back. He went out the room, he came back, still missing. So he sits down, he says, okay, I understand there's somebody here who doesn't understand my rule. I will explain to you now why I do not want the afikomen stolen from my Seder table. And he tells all the people gathered there, all the children, the grandchildren, all the guests, tells them the following story. He said, you know that I was a Holocaust survivor. And when I was in the Warsaw Ghetto, my father had a Seder. And of course, Seder was illegal in the Warsaw Ghetto under pain of death. So we managed to get a matzah. And a part of that was afikomen. And what did I do? I was a little kid at the time. I stole the afikomen, I snuck under the table. And while I was hiding under the table, the Nazis, Yamach Shemam V'Zichram, came in and they killed everybody. And I was the only survivor. Either killed them or they took them away, whatever. I was the only one left in that room. But of course, once the Nazis went out, I ran as fast as my legs could take me. And I ran into the forest, I ran and I ran and I ran. And when I was in the forest, I bumped into somebody who I knew. A boy who was older than me. And this boy was called Mottel. And he had a nickname. His nickname was Mottel the Gunnoff. And he was older than me. He was an orphan. Orphan from his mother, orphan from his father. And Nebuch, this boy, had a reputation of being a thief. He was caught with various things. And whatever, he got this reputation. So I had with me this piece of afikomen. And I decided, look, I'm with this guy, let's go together, maybe we'll run, we'll escape the Nazis together. Strength in numbers. But I said to this Mottel, I said, Mottel, I've got nothing on me. The only thing I've got on me is this one piece of afikomen. If you dare steal this afikomen from me, you're going to get it. I will never forgive you. This afikomen is coming with me to the grave. I will never give it up. And it turns out that we were running away, and over the days and the weeks, Mottel begged me, as we were starving, please, let's eat the afikomen. I said, no way, it's coming with me to the grave. No way we're going to eat this. And it happens that as they were running away, they were in a cave. And I had to sleep in the cave. And I woke up the next morning and I checked for the afikomen was gone. And it was just me and him in the cave. I said, Mottel, how could you do this to me? Give me back my afikomen. He said, I haven't got your afikomen. I said, Mottel, it's just you and me in this cave. You must have taken it. Give it back to me now. And we got into a fight. And that fight of words became a fist fight. And he ran away. And I ran away. And as he's running away, I heard in the distance the sounds of gunfire. And then I didn't hear any more running. And I realized, because of this argument we got into, that my friend Mottel had been killed by the Germans. And that is why I never want an afikomen to be stolen from my table. As soon as he told the story, there was an old man at the back who said, but what if that fellow never stole the afikomen? What if you were wrong? He said, I'm not wrong, because that afikomen is not with me. I never found it again. He said, what happened if he was never a thief? If really, they said he was a thief, but he wasn't really a thief. You suspect him of being a thief? That's one thing. But was he really a thief? He said, of course everyone knew him as Mottel the Gunnoff. What are you talking about? How do you know all this? He said, do you want to know how I know this? Because I'm Mottel. course, the man at the grandfather was completely crestfallen. He said, "You're mortal? I thought you died." He said, "No." He said, "You thought I died. You heard the gunfire, but I escaped. And you could see I survived the war. And I'll tell you something, I never stole a thing in my life." You know what people used to do? The unscrupulous people in our shtetl, they used to steal things. And to save them getting caught, they would hide them in my room. And so if the thing would be found, they could blame it on me. Now, I never stole a thing in my life until tonight. So, what did you steal? He takes out from his pocket the afikomen and he gives it back to grandfather. There's no moral to the story, but I'll tell you something. The afikomen is like any other piece of matzah. The afikomen is a segula. It's a segula because it doesn't indicate, it has no reference to the here and now. The afikomen refers to the future, refers to what will be. We want to hold on to the thing which is the thing from the future. And in truth, the afikomen is tzafon. The part of the Seder that refers to the afikomen is called tzafon. What does tzafon mean? It means hidden. The future is always hidden. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Who knows what's going to happen in 1 second's time? Nobody knows. The future you leave to Hashem. You trust in the future because you trust in Hashem. But who knows where Hashem is going to take you? Who knows what twists and turns your life is going to take? For that you need bitachon. So the afikomen signifies the faith that a Jew has in his Creator. That the future has got nothing to do with us. The future is to do with Hashem. That we trust you. We say, Bezrat Hashem, this will happen. Bezrat Hashem, that will happen. But that's only Bezrat Hashem, but we trust in you 100%. Now I'm going to finish. Now that I've started talking about afikomen, I'm going to continue talking about the Seder, and with this I'm going to finish. We haven't got much time. Okay. In this parasha of Tzav, we talk about the Korban Todah. The Korban Todah is the thanksgiving sacrifice. The thanksgiving sacrifice was presented by people who survived certain circumstances. People who travelled across the sea rather. People who travelled across the desert. People who came on journeys. People who recovered from illnesses. Nowadays we would say the bracha of HaGomer. But when the Beit HaMikdash was still around, a person would bring a Korban Todah. It's a thanksgiving sacrifice. And there is a midrash which brings a pasuk in Tehillim to explain the effect of this specific Korban, the Korban Todah. I'm going to read you this Tehillim. It's Tehillim Nun, at the end, the last pasuk in the 50th parak of Tehillim, says, Zoveach Todah Yechabdanani. One who gives, this is from Hashem's point of view, says Hashem, someone who gives me a Korban Todah, he honors me. Of course, you thank Hashem, that's honoring Hashem, that's obvious. But what is not obvious is the phraseology, the word here, which means he honors me. The word is Yechabdanani. That's a very strange word. Because the word to honor me, it should be Yechabdeni. And in fact, in this very kapitel, in the beginning, let me find it now, it says the word Yechabdeni somewhere. It is here somewhere. Utechabdeni. In the middle of the parak, it says, Ukaraeni b'yom tzara achaletzecha utechabdeni. With one nun. This Yechabdanani contains an extra nun. Why this extra nun? Must be teaching us something. What does it teach us? Says the Gemara, somebody who brings a Korban Todah, a thanksgiving sacrifice, gives me not one type of honor, but two types of honor. A double whammy, says Hashem. You give me two separate types of kavod. What are the two separate types of honor that a person gives to Hashem with this specific Thanksgiving sacrifice? I'm going to tell you a story. Oh, before I tell the story, I've got another question, and this story will answer both questions. And this is the Pesach part. On Pesach, we know one of the foods that we have is called charoset. Charoset is meant to signify the cement that we made and we used to make the bricks. But what many people may not know is that it also meant to signify a specific incident, a specific thing that happened on a regular basis in Mitzrayim. Because we had a quota of bricks to make, and a quota which had to be fulfilled, and if we didn't fulfill the quota, the Egyptians would do a terrible thing. They would take a live baby, and they would take this baby and use the baby for the missing bricks. So if there was a structure to be built, they would stick the baby where the missing bricks should be, and they would cement over this baby. The baby would form part of the wall. Now, we all know this and we say how terrible it is, but I told this point over last Sunday in Stanmore Synagogue to the Sephardi minyan, and at that minyan there was a young mother there with a 4-month-old baby. And I tell you something, looking at this baby, it really brought home this point. It's totally diabolical to even conceive of such a thing, taking a live child and pasting it into a wall and leaving it there. Can you imagine? And they did this in front of the mother. Can you imagine? It's beyond our conception even. It should shock us to the very core. And what do we have on our Seder night to commemorate this? The charoset. Or if you're Sephardi, we have the halik. How do you make charoset? Sweet red wine, nuts, apples, alle Sachen, all the sweet things that we could imagine. And if you're Sephardi, you make with date honey or whatever, lovely sweet. My auntie Leah, she should live and be well, she makes it so sweet. Even the tiniest bit will give you a sugar rush. And what do? Throughout Pesach, we're grabbing for the chalik, we're grabbing for the charoset, we put it on the matzah, we love it, it's amazing. Says Rabbi Wallerstein, if this charoset is meant to signify such a diabolical, despicable, horrible event, we should make this charoset with vinegar. Why we make it sweet? What's so sweet about this thing? And you have to have it. You dip the marora. Everyone wants to have a bit more than they're given. No, you have to shake off the excess. Say, please, give me a bit more, give me a bit more. What is this? Make it the most pungent, the most unpalatable food you can imagine. Here's the story. There was once a duke, a non-Jewish duke. And this duke was very rich. He owned villages and properties, and he had people living in his properties that paid him rent. And this duke had one person, like a deputy, who in the modern terminology we would call it, he managed his property portfolio. And this deputy happened to be a little bit unscrupulous, but the duke was very happy with him because he was a very good manager. And at one time the duke decided that he was going to go away for a year. He had enough of whatever, and he wanted to go on a cruise, on a world cruise for a year. So he says to his deputy, look, I'm leaving you in charge. Collect all my rents, make sure everything's okay, get your staff to make sure everything runs smoothly. And when I come back, I expect everything to be as it was when I left, if not better. And I want to mention one thing to you. there is a Jew that lives in one of my properties. And this Jew is a very good friend of mine. I want you, Mr. Deputy, to make sure that this Jew is looked after, because he's my friend. Do you understand? Of course, sir, Mr. Duke, sir. My pleasure, sir. The man says, okay, Mr. Deputy, thank you very much. And the Duke goes away on his world cruise. Of course, in those days, this is only in Marshall, by the way. In those days, there was no mobile phone, no fax, no email. So 1 year means 1 year out of sight, out of mind. Now, of course, the deputy is in charge of all these properties and all this land. He begins to think that he really is the boss. Forgets that he's working for the Duke. And he decides he's got it in for this Jew. Because apart from being a despicable lowlife, he also happened to be an anti-Semite. The two very often go together. So now he says to this Jew, he says, Mr. Jew, you've been paying the same rent for years. From next month, your rent goes up. So the Jew's now thinking, oh, he's going to put it up by 5%. That's going to be difficult for me. I hope he's not going to ask for 10%. The Jew says, how much are you going to increase my rent by? He says, it's going to double. The Jew is absolutely shocked. He's gobsmacked. I can't even afford the rent now. Why are you doubling it? Why am I doubling it? You don't question what I tell you. You pay the rent from next month, otherwise you're out. Of course, the Jew goes back to his family, doesn't know what to do. But he sits with his wife, they make various cheshbonot, whatever, they work out if they borrow from here, borrow from there, sell this, do that. They'll just about manage to get the rent from next month. So of course, the following month he starts paying double, and he's paying on time. 1 month, the Jew just could not find that month's rent. He just couldn't make it. So after 2 days, he gets a knock on the door, and who is it? None other than the deputy himself. Didn't send anybody else. He came himself. He said, where's my rent? The fellow said, I'm really, really sorry. I haven't quite got it. But you know what? Give me a few more days. Give me a week. Give me a week and I'll get you the rent. I promise, I really will. He says, I'm not giving you a week. I've given you 2 days already. He says, your time is up. If I don't get that rent by tonight, you better pack your bags. You're out of here. And he leaves. And of course, there's no way this Jew is going to get any money. He's just, forget it. So of course, the non-Jew, the deputy comes back after, at the end of in the evening, knocks on the Jew's door, says, where's the money? He says, I'm sorry, I haven't got the money. He says, right, I'm staying here, I'm watching you pack your bags, you're out. You've got 1 hour. Get out! What's he going to do? So he turns around, goes to his wife, they pack their bags, and the Jew goes out. The Jew's got nowhere to stay. His wife and kids got nowhere to stay. They go out and they sleep on a park bench. And this happens, it carries on, and they rough it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And now the Duke comes back from his year sabbatical, and he says to the deputy, "Nu, is everything okay? My property's okay, my rent's coming in." He says, "Yeah, no problem, everything's okay. You can see from the books, the ledgers, everything's been paid in properly, no problem. Except one thing." The Jew said, "What? What happened?" He said, "You know that Jew? Well, we had a problem with the rent, whatever, and he couldn't pay." I said, "What do you mean he couldn't pay?" "He was paying every month." He said, "Yeah, but I had to increase the rent." "What do you mean you increase the rent?" "I didn't tell you to increase the rent." He said, "Yeah, but he hadn't." So, "Okay, how much you increase the rent by?" "I doubled it." "You double it?" "Yeah, but he was paying, every month he was paying, you could see he had the money." He said, "Okay, so how was he overdue?" He said, "Yeah, he was overdue, he didn't pay. I was there 2 days and he didn't pay." 2 days? So where is he now? "I threw him out." "What do you mean you threw him out? He's my friend, I told you not to throw him out." He said, You idiot, I told you to look after him. How long has he been out on the street for?" 3 months. 3 months! You know what, Mr. Deputy? Pack your bags, you're fired. I don't want you working for me anymore. And you know, you have 3 houses, 3 properties that I gave you. You can have one of them. The other 2 houses are going back to me, and I'm giving one of them to this fellow. He will live in this house rent free for the rest of his life. You take your house. I don't want to see you anymore. Of course, the deputy is furious, and the Duke is running. He tries his best. He goes to see if he can find where the Jew, and he finds it. Poor fellow, he's hidden with his wife, his kids all sleeping on park benches. He runs, he goes, "Oi, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I told my deputy to look after you. This is a terrible thing, but don't worry. I've given you a house. You will never have to do anything. You will never have to want in your life. Now this is yours." Of course, the Jew, you expect him to be the happiest person, and the Jew goes away, and now the Jew and his wife are having a conversation, and the Jew's looking very, very glum, very, very, very nonplussed. So the wife says to the Jew, "Why are you upset? What's wrong? What's the matter with you? So you see what a tremendous thing what happened to us." He said, "You know what? I'm not too happy about it. Because I was mistreated by this Gentile, and in fact he beat me on several occasions, which I didn't want to mention to you. You know something? If he would have beaten me a bit harder, maybe we would have got all 3 properties." What's the nimshal of this story? If a person knew in reality that the things that happen to us, the tests that we go through, the things that we suffer from, if we knew what they meant for us, if we knew in Shamayim how much they're worth, we would not only not grumble about them, we'd ask for more of them. We'd say, "Bring on this test. Let me suffer this pain." Because in Shamayim, we'll know it was meant to, as a kapara. It was meant for an atonement. It was meant to help me. It was meant to make me grow. But of course we don't know. We have no idea. So why does it say in the Tehillim, Yachabdanani, with 2 nuns? To show us a very important thing. It's very easy when you bring a korban of thanks to Hashem. When a normal Jew who's got any seichel will say, "Look, Hashem, you released me from the pain. I travelled and I didn't get harmed. I came out of an illness and I'm okay. I'm bringing you a thanksgiving sacrifice." That a normal person can do, because a person feels a relief from a trouble. But this pasuk in the Tehillim is telling us something more. That a person should not only give thanks that he's released from the problem or the test, he should give thanks for the test itself. Because the test itself requires gratitude. Because Hashem, when He gives us a test, that's for our own good. Just like the person in the story who got whipped and who was thrown out of his house, that was all for his own good, because at the end of the day he got a property. And when he knew what it was for, he said, "Chaval, I didn't get more punishment." The same thing with the person giving the korban. You say to Hashem, you honor Hashem by giving Him the korban. That's one thing. But Hashem says, "You're giving me double honor." Because not only should you thank me for relieving me from this problem, but you should also thank me for giving me the problem in the first place. That's the beauty of the korban todah. That's the beauty of a person who knows who is giving him the tests. And similarly with the charoset, why do we have this sweet, beautiful thing? You know why? Because when the Egyptians were chasing the Jews, and the Jews were running towards the Yam, and it looked like, forget it, the Jews are going to be decimated, 20 minutes, it's going to be finished. There's no chance. You know what's happening in Shamayim? In Shamayim, the angel of the Egyptians got up and he was giving testimony against the angel of the Jews. The angel of the Egyptians said, "Ribono shel olam, what do you want from my people? You want to destroy my people and drown them in the sea? Why? They were only only following orders. Pharaoh said to them, go and throw the Jewish children in the Nile. If they would have said, no, we're not doing it, then they would have been killed. They had to listen to their king. They had to listen to Pharaoh. So what do you want from them? You want to drown all of them because they were following orders? So to cut a long story short, that evidence held testament. It held credence in Shemaim. Hashem said, no, it's a good answer. Until the angel of the Jews got up and he went down to earth, for whatever that means, and he came back and he bought exhibit number 1 and he plonked it down. What was this exhibit that he bought? It was a brick. This brick contained one of those children who were put into the wall. And the angel said to the Beit Din Shel Mala, he said, look at this brick, there's a baby inside this brick. This baby was thrown into the wall. Were the Egyptians commanded to do that? Did Pharaoh say, throw the babies into the wall? He never said that. They did that for their own volition. This was voluntary for them. And that's when Hashem accepted that testimony. And that's when Hashem said, drown them all. Because there's no defense for that. They were not anusim. They were not forced to do that. So you can see that the thing which was the most terrible, diabolical, despicable, cruel beyond any measure of imagination, that was what saved the Jews. That was the vital evidence that saved the Jews from destruction at the Yam, at the sea. And that's why we have Chalik. That's why I have Charoset that's sweet. Because we want to show no matter how much it seems bad at the time, the cement, the babies, it's just... But really that's what saved us. The sweetness we're showing that behind everything, every trial, every tribulation, no matter how bad it seems, there's always a purpose. And Hashem knows, and we must trust in Hashem. Yehi Ratzon, may it be the will of Hashem to show us ultimately the good, and for us to feel, to have faith, to have umunah in Hashem, that everything Hashem does is for the good. It's tov al gabei tov al gabei tov, and we should give thanks on top of thanks on top of thanks for everything, no matter how vital it seems, no matter how unlikely it seems, because it's all for the good. B'ezras Hashem, this year we will celebrate with Mashiach in Yerushalayim, not L'Shana Haba, but this year in Yerushalayim, with a Biat Goel Tzedek, V'chein Yosam V'Romar Amen. Chag Kasher V'Sameach L'Kulam. If there's anybody who would like to come back to me with answers to those 2 questions, or who just want to send me an email with any comments, any criticisms, any feedback, I'd be happy to hear from you. The email address is rabbikalati@gmail.com.